learning. Learning. What are we doing when we learn? It's thought of, as an intellectual thing. I'm taking in information. It's information theory and this and that, brain hacks, life hacks, whatever. We learn. We don't need to make it happen. We couldn't stop it if we tried. But we can certainly make it harder. And it's important to be clear about which part of us we want to sort of focus the learning on. If I'm thinking hard as I do something, then that part of me sort of intercepts more, doesn't intercept more of the experience, but it ends up, I'm learning to engage that part of me when I do that. Not necessarily so helpful if it's something that I want to get good enough at that I become graceful and natural. Because graceful and natural does not come from thinking. It comes from natural expression, from feeling. So if we want grace and ease and natural, whether it's movement or thought or creativity or performance or whatever, how do we get there? We allow the larger part of our nervous system, the vastly larger part of our nervous system, which includes the enteric brain in the gut, most of the brain in the cranium, and all of the various chemistry that spreads throughout the body into every cell, and of course the things that are beyond brain and chemistry. We allow ourselves to immerse fully in an experience. Whatever it is that we sort of allow and encourage to be immersed in something we're doing, that's the part of us that we are practicing to let that part of us lead in those moments. And I want to live as a full-bodied person with a soul and a heart and a mind. But, it's going to keep running anyway. I really don't need to help it. So when I teach movement stuff, drills or whatever, I encourage people, just feel. Don't worry about getting it right. And sometimes there's a very particular feeling that is important for a capacity that person wants to learn. That's fine. Being specific is not a problem. But being controlling and being cognitive is, I believe. If you're learning a math problem, you still want to engage your body. You still can. My kids are in a Waldorf school, and they do that all the time. And the best of the most elite physicists will often speak in language that's very qualitative when they talk about how they actually come to new things. Sometimes they work it out, and sometimes it just comes to them, and then they work it out. So this is not separate from intellectual pursuits. Inspiration doesn't come from linear thought, I don't believe. Or we just call it thinking. So allow all of yourself to participate in what you're doing. And we want clarity. We don't want a specific hard, narrow focus. The more you allow yourself to fully participate in whatever it is you're doing, you will learn as the result of thousands of successful generations of evolution, you are wired to learn. I am wired to learn automatically just by doing something. Badly or well, I am going to start to take in the experience and expand my function and my awareness with that input, using that input. So give yourself the experience and relax. And give yourself also, particularly with like physical pursuits or strongly intellectual pursuits, well, any pursuit, give yourself the time to circle around and use other parts of yourself to sort of enlarge the pool of what's participating in the learning. If you're doing something intellectual, move every once in a while. It'll help you think. Plenty of studies on that. Or if you've been sitting for a while, go for a walk and just let the thinking go. Let it do what it wants to do. And all of a sudden, often, so many intellectuals have used that as a way to digest and come to new perspectives, information, knowledge by allowing that other part to fill in and help complete their embodiment, their absorption of an experience and the expanding of their awareness with new knowledge. If you're doing something physical, I find for me it's often helpful to just be quiet for a while, because the noise of physicality, it can become sort of entrancing. We just want to keep moving and moving and moving and moving. What happens if you stop? You're still moving. There's so many things happening. And that pause can allow space to feel subtleties and connections. All of these things are rubbing up. Your new experiences are rubbing up against your old ones. And maybe they're breaking into old patterns and showing you things. If you listen, what are the reasons why you couldn't just do it perfectly the first time? Some people do pick stuff up like that in certain areas. What's there already? What have you been doing already that clashes with this? That has something to say about how you do this, or something to say about why you're having a hard time? Who knows? But let it speak. So, letting learning be an immersive and all-encompassing and accepting experience is fundamental for me, is so important in how to make use of life. If any experience can be made use of. All I need to do is feel. And remember that there is no separation, there is no physical moment, there is no spiritual moment, there is no intellectual moment. There are moments. We are here now, all of us. So, if I find myself in my intellect in a moment, what does my body have to say about it? What does my emotion have to say about it? And with that, I'm much less likely to respond with a pattern, with a habit, with a reaction. I take it in, I accept the experience, the feeling fully. And I allow a response, if there is one. Not a reaction, but a response. Most things don't need anything from us. They're happening. The things that do need something, if we allow them in to truly feel them, and you can't not feel something, by the way, if it's present around you, you can just try to ignore it, drown it out, la 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 la, you know. If you're taking something in that way, and you just sit with it, if there needs to be a response, it will be clear, usually. There will be a very basic urge, or sometimes the response just happens, but it's not a reaction because it's not twitchy, it's not fast, and it's not trying to make something go away. It's often quiet, and it leaves you overall in a freer place. That's usually my guideline for it. So, learning.